My pick for the best offense in football going into the 2019 NFL season is the Atlanta Falcons. Not the Chiefs, not the Rams, the Saints, or the Patriots. You heard it, the Atlanta Falcons. And this is my reasoning. Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Do you agree with me? Do you think the best offense in football is the Atlanta Falcons, or do you believe it's another team in the NFL? Atlanta has a legit top-tier quarterback. They have a top 3 wide receiver trio in the NFL. They improved their offensive line, and they're getting back a top 10 running back in the NFL in this upcoming 2019 season. That's why I think they're ready to explode offensively in this upcoming season. But let's start off with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is the first reason why Atlanta is going to be the best offense in 2019. Arguably, I thought that Matt Ryan had his best season he's ever had in the 2018 season. And this, yes, includes his MVP season of 2016. If you look at the numbers and the stats, Matt Ryan actually almost had an identical season to his MVP season in 2016. He just didn't have Kyle Shanahan. He didn't have Devonta Freeman, making this season, to me, even more impressive. When you look at the numbers, he was awesome. I mean, 69.4 completion percentage. He had 4,900 yards, nearly a 5,000-yard season, 35 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions with a 108.1 passer rating. He also had his second best yards per attempt of his career, behind only 2016 with 8.1, which is elite. Anything over about 8 is really elite numbers for yards per attempt. Ryan, I think, has really impressed me in terms of the last 2 seasons where when in 2016 it seemed kind of more like the system was getting the plays open and he was hitting some open receivers, and really the system was making him an MVP player. But in 2017, 2018, even a season that wasn't so statistically dominant in 2017, I was really impressed with Matt Ryan physically as a quarterback. And in 2018, he showed even more promise with his ability to extend plays and make plays outside of the system with his arm and his legs to really make plays for his offense and his team and lead his offense to big plays, big points, and ultimately putting up some wins. Now, it's not going to be looked at the same because Atlanta only finished 7-9, but a big part of that was because Atlanta's defense was completely injured and they just weren't very good in general. So Matt Ryan was having to carry the team last year. It just didn't work out into some victories like it did in 2016 or in 2017. But Matt Ryan is a huge reason why Atlanta is going to have an elite offense this year and probably the best in the league, in my opinion. Now, reason number 2 is they have an elite wide receiver core, a top 3 wide receiver core, in my opinion. When you look at it, Julio Jones is arguably the best receiver in the NFL, and I would say he is the best receiver in the NFL because he has the best complement of size, speed, and just pure technical route running, hands, all that sort of stuff. He can make a big play down the field. He can burn you in terms of catching the football and running after the catch. He's a absolutely unique football player when it comes to his route running ability. For that size, that speed combination, it's extremely difficult to stop him, and I think he's been in the top 2 for receiving yards the last 2 seasons, leading the league last season. So Julio Jones, he's a Hall of Famer. He's well on his way to becoming that, but he's the best receiver in the NFL, and he draws attention to him because you're going to need to double team him. You're going to need to take away that deep ball, and that allows the 2 other receivers to really thrive. Last year's first-round pick, Calvin Ridley, who was awesome for them had this stretch of games where he was even better than Julio statistically, where he had 821 yards last year and 10 touchdowns on 64 receptions. And I would expect that Calvin Ridley in his second season will take another step up as a big-time target, and I would not be shocked whatsoever if Ridley did pass the 1,000-yard mark in 2019 and being a very good complementary receiver to Julio Jones. Then you have Mohamed Sanu, who's one of the better slot receivers in the NFL and a guy that's really good underneath. He had 838 yards, 4 touchdowns on 12.7 yards per catch and 66 catches, which was his best season in the past few years. I think it was his best overall season, at the very least statistically, for Atlanta, and he's looked really good. I think he even improved last year a little bit in terms of his chemistry with Matt Ryan, his route running ability, and just his utilization within the offense. And he's a perfect complement to what Ridley and Jones give the offense, as well as he can be more in that third receiver role and really thrive in that spot, taking advantage of the third corner that a defense is going to put on him. And then you talk about the tight end position of Austin Hooper, who secretly had a really good season last year. Did you guys know that Austin Hooper actually caught 71 passes last year? Like, that seems like a lot of passes for Austin Hooper. Like, he had a stretch of really good games, and he's improved significantly every season. Like, in his rookie year, he only had 271 yards. In his second season, he had 526 yards. And then in his third year, he really broke out with 660 yards on 71 catches in 2018. I think a lot of that has been his improved chemistry with Matt Ryan, his just improved awareness of the NFL play, and just getting more experienced as a football player. But just like Calvin Ridley, I would expect Austin Hooper to also get a little bit better in his 4th season, because it does take tight ends a little bit of time to really reach their peak and potential, unless you're Rob Gronkowski. Devonta Freeman is back, which is huge, because the run game was awful without him for Atlanta in 2018. And the run game should be improved with Freeman back in the lineup. He played just 2 games in 2018, and like I said, it really showed, because they only ranked 27th running the football last season, with Tevin Coleman and Ito Smith being the main ball carriers. But with Devonta Freeman back, you really saw how much better they are with him, when they were 13th in rushing with the same offensive scheme, the same offensive coordinator in Steve Sarkisian in 2017. So just that's 14 spot difference with Devonta Freeman compared to no Devonta Freeman. Plus, you have to factor in that they kind of went heavy on terms of they want to be a more balanced offense. They brought in a guy like Luke Stalker, who's a versatile tight end, fullback, hybrid sort of player that will allow them to play in more 2 tight end sets and allow a fullback to be on the field a little bit more commonly than they had the last 2 seasons. They really haven't utilized a fullback as much since Kyle Shanahan left to San Francisco to become the head coach. Freeman, I think, will also be involved more this season than any other as a receiver. Probably the most he's been utilized as a receiver since 2015, where he really broke out that season. But without Tevin Coleman there, who's the main pass catcher, I think Freeman will have more of a role in terms of catching the football. I am a tad bit concerned if there's any flaw on this Atlanta offense, it's their backup running back position. I'm not exactly sold in Ito Smith being a top-tier backup. He's not a bad short yardage running back, but I would like to see them add somebody possibly in free agency before the season starts. But the thing that has the most promise for me going into 2019, the biggest reason why I'm higher on Atlanta as a football team in general, is their offensive line. It was a big point of emphasis in this offseason. Really, they went out, Thomas Dimitroff, their general manager, went out there, and he really realized that this offense and this team needs to get back to the basics and get back to the offensive line. They drafted 2 players in the first round to upgrade their offensive line, and they will have 3 new starters along the offensive line at right tackle, right guard, and left guard. So adding to the players that they already had at left tackle and center, which Alex Mack and Matthews were both very good players. They're top-notch players at their position, but adding just a full complement of first-rounders on your line, which is really crazy. That's only happened, I think, once or twice in NFL history, which just speaks to how much of a point of emphasis it was for Thomas Dimitroff. Last season, Atlanta's offensive line wasn't terrible. It ranked 12th in the NFL by Pro Football Focus. But I think just adding those guys, upgrading that position, will make them even better. So 3 new offensive line starters. That includes Carpenter, who came over from the New York Jets, who was a former first-rounder himself, who's probably the weakest link of the offensive line. But Chris Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry, those 2 guys will be instant starters and instant impact players for both the run game and the passing game, helping protect Matt Ryan and helping open up holes for Devonta Freeman. Also, they're basically adding depth because Schweitzer, who was one of their starters last season, he's going to be a backup now for them at guard. And then Jamon Brown, who was a starting guard for the New York Giants, they also signed to be a backup. So they have great depth on the offensive line as well if they do have an injury. So that is promising for Atlanta. Dirk Koetter is coming back for the Atlanta Falcons offense as well. Basically back to the future here for Atlanta. He was Atlanta's offensive coordinator from 2012 to 2014, and I think he is a pretty big upgrade over Steve Sarkisian, who I think struggled specifically in his first season. In his second season, it was a little bit better, but I tend to think that was more the talent than the play calling or the offense itself. I think Dirk, he really showed in his time in Tampa Bay that his offense transfers to different schemes, different quarterbacks, different talent. And in Tampa Bay, they were surprisingly a really good offense in 2018 and even in 2017. Looking at the numbers, the Tampa Bay offense in 2017 finished 18th in points for, 9th in yards, 2nd in first downs, and 4th in passing. But in 2018, Tampa Bay had a really good offense. They finished 3rd overall in yards. They were 12th in points, 2nd in first downs, and 1st in passing yards. So if Dirk can bring some of the scheme that he had in Tampa Bay over to Atlanta, that's going to be a big time impact and a big time upgrade over Steve Sarkisian's offense. Now, to wrap this up, I want to take a look at some of the teams that were ahead of the Atlanta Falcons in 2018 and tell you why Atlanta could be better than them in 2019. Starting off with the number 1 team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They will be without Tyreek Hill most likely for this season, which is a huge loss because it's a trickle-down effect on the rest of their receivers and the rest of their targets. There's also just due for regression because, you're not going to be historic 2 years in a row. That very rarely happens. Plus, Mitch Morse left, who was arguably their best, probably their second best offensive lineman from 2018. So he left to Buffalo. So that's going to hurt. And Chris Connolly also left to the Jaguars. At number 2, LA was ahead of them as well, and they have significant losses on the offensive line. They have basically a whole new interior offensive line that's not very good. Todd Gurley is injured, and I don't know what's up with that situation. And Sean McVay's scheme, I think, is starting to be a little bit more figured out than it has been in the past, which I think will hurt them. I also think the Rams, I'm down on them this year, so I think that will hurt. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're without Dirk Koetter, obviously. Humphreys is gone and Deshaun Jackson is gone, so those 3 are significant losses. I wouldn't expect Tampa Bay to be in the top 10 this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are without Antonio Brown, which is huge. No matter what you think of Antonio Brown, he is a great player, and losing him will take them out of the top 5 most likely. And the New England Patriots, I could see them in the top 5 again this year, but I don't think they'll be number 1 because I think they're going to be scoring less because they're going to be more philosophically different. Their philosophy is going to be different as a team. They're going to be more run heavy. They're going to be more defense centric. And I don't think they're going to be as kind of all out there in terms of trying to score as many points as a team like Atlanta will be, because Atlanta is more of a fast paced, high scoring, high octane offense compared to New England, where they're kind of moving towards more of a ball control unit. So to sum it up, Atlanta was 10th in points last year, 6th in yards in 2018. They improved their offensive line. They improved their offensive coordinator. They get back Freeman, and they are going to see growth from Hooper and Ridley. That is why they are going to be the best offense in 2019. Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Peace out.